Like a woman 43 weeks pregnant, a book past its due date, or a long-needed visit between friends, this is Overdue with the Slut and the Prude.
A monthly feminist podcast that highlights the beauties of libraries while discussing everything from politics to pop culture and whatever nonsense pops into our heads.
So, welcome back. This is, I guess, would this be our first podcast
First
of the new year?
podcast of the year. Yeah.
2020.
Happy New Year. It's a little ridiculous to say because it's not like 3 weeks into it.
Shh, they don't need to know that. But it is the start of our, hopefully, bi-weekly installments of the podcast, so that's always exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nora, where are we today?
Today we are at Burnhamthorpe Library. And if you give me a minute, I will figure out what that means.
Is the internet being tricky again?
No, I'm just slow.
That's fine.
Okay, so a little about Burnhamthorpe. This was originally designed by renowned architect Raymond Murayama. Burnhamthorpe Library opened in 1976, having undertaken a major renovation in 2011. The library now offers a wide variety of materials for borrowing and a fireplace lounge reading area.
Oh, that's pretty fancy.
At this library, you will find a 3D printer, a children's multimedia workstation, which we are currently occupying.
We are.
Computers with Wi-Fi, internet, Microsoft, print scan photocopying, as well as a makerspace room, a program study room, and 2 quiet study rooms. Aha, there is 2. We should have found another one. Oh well. There are 2 quiet study rooms.
Oh, there are. Well, yeah, but they were full of people.
That's true.
So I don't think they would have liked it if we went in there and started chatting. I'm assuming I can put my feet up on this thing.
No, never
Anyway,
problem.
do you want your present now or a little bit later?
No.
Okay, so for our intrepid listeners, of which I think there are none, I have a gift for Nora. And it's nothing fancy, but let's see.
Ooh, that looks fancy.
There you go.
Okay. It says, the card, will you be my bridesmaid? Of course I will be your bridesmaid.
Yay!
I kind of assumed I already was.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's
There
nice to
are
be formally asked.
There are
Ooh,
6
are these
of
the
you.
colors?
So those are the colors.
Okay.
So the pink is what skirt you will have eventually. But this is just a little, they call it a bridesmaid's proposal box. So it's like me proposing the question to you on whether or not you'll be my bridesmaid. But
probably the only proposal I'll get this year.
oh,
so thank
yikes! I mean, do you really want to date someone and then in 12 months' time get proposed to?
That's fair.
Do you think you would know the person enough in 12 months? Like, say you started dating someone tomorrow?
Depending on how much time you spend together.
I guess
But then
that's
I would
fair.
worry how much time we were spending together.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I probably knew a year into dating Kyle that I wanted to go further. Do I think we were ready for a proposal and, like, engagement? Probably not. But I've known people who've gotten married in less, so... Anyway.
That's true. Ooh, yes.
There's more. It's not just a card.
More. You know me so
Oh,
well.
yes.
Ooh.
So I made that.
Did you really? Yeah. And I am looking at a mug. And you made with my name on it. And it says bridesmaid.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
And just some standard
candy.
So that's the British one that I was telling you about.
Ooh.
It's cold. I would wait till it's warm a little bit, otherwise it's going to break your teeth. There's got toffee in it, so...
Oh, it's curly whirly. Ah,
we love a curly whirly.
And then Sour Patches. Yum.
And I saw those and I thought they were weird, so I thought I'd buy them.
Juicy Squirts Berry. I've never had these.
I haven't either, but I saw them and I was like, she said she likes candy.
I do like candy.
And the last part of the maid gift...
Cutlery?
Take a guess of what you think it is. Don't tip it upside down. That's upside down.
Oh,
so that's the bottom.
Okay.
See if you can figure out what it is.
This is a
It
straw.
is a straw. You're right.
A reusable straw. These are chopsticks.
Yeah.
This. This I've never seen
Oh,
before.
I know. It's such a strange implement. It's a spoon.
And a dingle
A
hopper.
dingle hopper. For all of your dingle hopping needs. And a kniff.
And a kniff.
Any idea what that is?
It looks like it. Oh, it's a very flat knife.
I mean, it's a knife.
It's a knife. Okay. But it kind of looks like a butter knife, too.
I mean, it's a travel cutlery set.
A
Because you can
travel
put it in your
cutlery.
purse. It has everything you need. Yeah, perhaps I should have
You
put
use it
it
as a
that way.
puppet.
But then you can just throw it in your purse and you'll always have a straw. You'll always have chopsticks. You'll always have a knife and a
Because
fork.
you never know when you need chopsticks.
You never know.
You never know.
And I made that as well, obviously.
Yes, it's very cute. It's a plaid little carry-on. That's adorable. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
And the basket's yours too. That's yours. You don't have to give me
Mine.
that back. Ooh. Making a mess in the library.
I make a mess everywhere I go.
Anyway, I'm glad you said yes. That would have been really embarrassing if you were like, no thanks.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, so that was the non-serious portion of the podcast.
Yes, now it's time to get down to business.
Yeah, and obviously we will be chatting in future about the wedding stuff, but for now, I think today's episode is going to be, as you saw from the title, the existential environmental anxiety. And I think it's probably really important to have some context. For example, in case anyone didn't know, my degree is in environmental studies with a side helping of ecosystems management, which means the environment's a pretty important thing for me. And Nora, your background for context?
I'm psychology. I have nothing to do with environment. I just like it.
But existential anxiety, I feel like, has a lot to perhaps do with psychology.
It does.
Well, I feel like you'd have a lot of insight into. We basically want to discuss why perhaps both of us are feeling different things about the current state of the environment.
Yes.
In case.
In particular, it was the Australian wildfire.
Yes. Which I believe are still going and
Yes.
have been for at least 6 to 8 weeks, I think.
No, last year.
Oh, right, because we're already 3 weeks into.
So it started I don't know the exact date, but it was December that it did actually start. And that's typical for Australia.
Yeah.
They're on the opposite side of the world, so our winter is their summer.
Yep.
Their summers tend to be very hot.
Yep.
They have droughts in the outbacks. That's typical. Fires are a consequence of that.
And it's also actually a part of their natural ecosystem. Their ecosystems actually require fire to survive. They are not quite a desert habitat. They're more of a savanna type ecosystem, and very typical of a savanna type ecosystem is the requirement of fire for some of their plants to grow. It helps to deter a lot of invasive species and weeds from growing, but also some of their seeds on their trees and such actually need fire to open so they can germinate. The difference is that these are uncontrolled and cover actually the size of. I saw somebody did a equivalency map, and it'd be as if from Windsor to Coburg were on fire in southern Ontario, and all the way up to Tobermory, which is up by the Lake Superior, I believe. And that's a significant amount of land.
Yeah. And what is it, about 500,000, 1 million animals?
They're actually estimating 1 billion animals have either perished or been severely injured by these fires.
Yeah. So this is definitely the worst it's ever been in recorded history. It's not the only forest fires that we've seen that have been devastating.
Mm-mm.
We saw them in California, we saw them in Fort McMurray
Mm-hmm.
in Alberta. I mean, those are natural places for forest fires to occur as well.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing recently and what we're expecting is that them for to be longer,
Mm-hmm.
more devastating, with more severe consequences.
Yeah, and I think a big problem as well is that we're seeing, well, people are not really grasping
Mhm.
what this means. Like I
Mhm.
see a lot of people being like, "This is devastating." Like there's so many people pouring out support for Australia, but I
Mhm.
don't think they're truly grasping that it's normal but extreme. Like
Mhm.
this isn't what it should be. This
Mhm.
isn't normal, but
Yeah.
they don't quite grasp that it's going to be.
Yeah.
On one side anyway, and the
Mhm.
other side is me. Part of what
Yeah.
got us talking about this was I am so I studied the environment, that's what I do, but I am paralyzed with
Mhm.
like anxiety and fear and have no idea how to handle
Mhm.
my understanding of what this
Mhm.
means. Because
Yeah.
I do, like, from a scientific, social
Mhm.
standpoint, like, this is what I studied.
Yeah.
And I truly comprehend what this means, and it is terrifying.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's a completely normal
Hmm.
reaction,
Hmm.
especially from somebody who actually has an understanding
Hmm.
of what is happening. I think it's normal to know what your
Hmm.
science and your knowledge is telling you, and then have that to deal with your existence.
Hmm.
Like, what does that mean for my existence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you were telling me that you have a different feeling.
very different feeling. And I'm just angry.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, well, anger is a secondary emotion that's hiding what you really feel. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's just, a defense for
Hmm.
what I'm really
Hmm.
feeling. Maybe I'm not processing it and I'm refusing to. And so maybe anger is how I'm dealing with
Hmm.
it. But mostly, yeah, I'm just angry.
And I think
I,
that's natural too, though.
yeah.
Because where's your anger focus? Is it just like a blanket of anger? Or is it like focused on the people who are denying climate change or on the
Yeah.
people who are like,
I'm angry at governments
mm,
for their lack of action.
mm-hmm,
I'm angry at companies who put profit over in the environment.
yeah,
I'm angry at society who refuses to believe what is
mm-hmm,
happening and who have a very knee-jerk reaction,
yeah,
who instead of are trying to do something every
mm-hmm,
day, only react when their house is literally on fire.
yeah,
And then they want to get all upset and, oh, it's so sad, and oh my God, what's happening? And it's like, where was this concern before it happened? We
yeah,
need prevention, we don't need
yeah.
reaction.
And the problem with knee jerk reaction is a lot of the
Hmm.
time people do something, whether it's
Hmm.
being able to donate $30, whether it's
Yeah.
being able to donate $1 million, whether it's able
Hmm.
to, I don't know, anything. And then there's nothing else after that because they feel
Exactly.
like they've done their part.
Hmm.
They feel like they can say, oh, well, I helped.
Yeah.
But the problem with environmental things is we didn't get here in one day.
Oh,
We're not going to fix it in one day.
no.
Even if, for example, this is one way we talk to people who don't really understand environmental stuff. If we stopped polluting, stopped putting out greenhouse gases, stopped with um, emissions today,
Hmm.
every single thing globally,
Hmm.
it would still, climate change would still continue and we'd still
Hmm.
see emissions rising for 30 years
Hmm.
because that's how long it takes for the atmosphere to react to
Hmm.
things we do
Hmm.
here
Hmm.
on the ground.
Hmm.
And so, like, it's not going to take a day,
Hmm.
it's going to take upwards of 30 years to see any sort of change. And people are like, well, then what does it matter? Like, I'm
Exactly.
going to be either dead, like if
Yeah.
someone who's in their like 50s,
Hmm.
or they're like, well, it doesn't matter what I do today because it's not going to make a change.
Right.
I'm like, that's hard.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I just think back to like last year with the Amazon that was burning.
Oh God, yeah.
Everybody reacted the exact same way,
Hmm.
and look where we are now.
But
It,
I don't think people poured as much money into it as they
they
have
didn't.
because there's no true megafauna of the
Right.
Amazon.
Right.
There's just people, and people don't care
Hmm.
about people.
No. Well, except for the fact that most of our oxygen comes from the Amazon.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, we don't need that. Who needs air?
Yeah, who needs air? Nobody
Yeah.
needs air.
Yeah.
You know
You
capitalists
know.
will can it one day.
Exactly.
Have you seen the movie Spaceballs?
No.
So it's a spoof movie about like Star Wars. Like they take
Mhm.
elements of Star Wars and spoof it.
Mhm.
But one of the things that they talk about is how the earth doesn't have any oxygen anymore and
Mhm.
how rich people have cans and keep cans in their like desk, and if they open it and breathe in the can, they're
Mhm.
good for like a couple hours.
Mhm.
And how at one point the bad guys are sucking the rest of the air
Mhm.
out of the earth so that they can
Mhm.
have it for themselves. And all I can think right now is that movie's probably 30 years old.
Mhm.
But it's like
Yeah.
artists and minorities always see it before everyone else does
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah. Yep.
Another thing that I wanted to kind of get your opinion on
Mhm.
is part of the reason I feel like people have such kind of existential anxiety about the
Mhm.
environment. One is because of this idea that like it doesn't matter immediately what you do today,
Right.
right? Like you not taking takeout cups or
Mhm.
not using plastic straws. That's not actually going to matter today.
Mhm.
It's more of the collective thing that's hard for
Mhm.
people to really truly
Mhm.
grasp. The second thing I think is if you've noticed a lot of, I want to call it propaganda, because that's kind
Mhm.
of what it is, for the environment, puts a lot of the onus on people like you and me in
Mhm.
our daily activities
Mhm.
to make a change. When did you know 90% of the emissions are produced by 10 companies
Yeah.
globally? Or it's something like that. It might be like
Mhm.
80% of emissions are produced
Yeah.
by 10 companies. But 10 companies in this world
Mhm.
produce far more emissions than
Yeah.
the 7 billion people on this planet.
Mhm.
And I think that the idea that the onus should only be on us
Yeah.
to quote unquote show corporations that we need a
Mhm.
change is absolutely part of the existential crisis that people feel.
Mhm. I think that's where some of my anger comes from as well,
Mm.
because I'm part of this kind of petition website
Mm.
thing. So I get lots of emails
Oh
from.
yeah,
So yeah, so I
it's
get
like
petitions from
petitions.org
like
or something.
e-
Oh,
change.org.
change. Yeah, I get those
So
too.
yeah, so you get emails that are like, oh, we're petitioning against this major
Mm.
corporation to stop doing this because it's causing,
Mm-hmm.
environmental
Mm-hmm.
problems. And so you're like, yes, I'm absolutely will sign this petition. Yes, I will absolutely tell these companies that I want them to stop doing that. And then of course they don't. And then of course these things happen. And then you're just like, what the fuck?
Or my biggest question is like, do do those petitions go anywhere?
Yeah, that's the other thing that I feel like. I'm like, did I even make a difference? Does this even care? Does
Yeah,
anybody
because
actually up
obviously
there
so
see
many
this?
people care. Like obviously people
Yeah.
sign those petitions. There's tens of thousands of people,
Hmm.
millions of people sign those petitions. But where do they go?
Yeah.
Like, do they get?
Who sees them?
Because like another thing is usually policy can only be changed by those who live in the country
Hmm.
where the change needs to happen. So, for instance, when animal testing was really huge, and there's
Hmm.
a big movement to ban animal testing,
Yeah.
people in, for instance, Canada
Hmm.
had to vote or had to sign petitions to get
Right.
taken to, I want to call it the House that's American, to, and Congress is
Parliament.
also American, to Senate. No?
House of
House
Commons.
of Commons. Okay, it is the House. They get taken to the House. The House acknowledges it and listens,
Hmm.
but it's not like getting 20,000 votes
Right.
changes it. It's something like getting 20,000 votes is how you get into Congress or into
Hmm.
the House. Like,
Hmm.
that's how these things happen. And so I wonder first of all, who's the person taking them to House of Commons? Are they? Is
Hmm.
anybody taking them?
Hmm.
And that's what also makes my anxiety just like, it's like I don't want to not do my part,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's like seeing all these petitions, seeing all these
Yeah.
things drives me up the wall because I'm like,
Yeah.
it feels like there's
I
hundreds
think
of
that
things I need to do.
I think that's where my anger is from. I think my real
Mm,
feeling is actually just burnout
yeah.
because I get on my tablet. it's connected to both my emails. And so every single day I'm getting a new email about this environmental disaster, this environmental policy, this thing that needs to be changed, animal cruelty, abuse, and it's just
Yeah.
like I can't.
Sexual violence.
Sexual violence, yeah. And it's just like this is like animal abuse on like the largest scale and just like I can't.
Yeah, and I
I
guess it
can't
begs the
process that. I'm
question
just gonna
on
be mad.
yeah, and I guess it begs the question on what can we do. I guess it begs the question on what can we do though. Like,
Yeah.
what is the most effective way
Mhm.
to handle these situations? The thing I tell everybody, and I say it over and over again, and I post it a million times on social media, and I post it a million times on whatever forum I have access to,
Yeah.
is I saw it on like a Tumblr something or other, and it didn't have anybody associated with it, no quote, but it's the idea that, and I've said it before, we don't need a million people doing zero waste
Right.
perfectly, because
Mhm.
that'll do nothing. Even if it was a billion people doing it perfectly,
Mhm.
it accomplishes nothing in the grand scheme
Mhm.
of things. What we need is every single person,
Mhm.
every one of the 7 billion people on this earth doing it imperfectly,
Mhm.
trying their best.
Mhm.
And the thing is, that doesn't even take into account the fact that there are billions of people who are not a part of the problem.
Mhm.
People, especially in developing countries, who don't have any responsibility for what's happening. It's
Right.
the developed world that's done this, really.
Mhm.
But I think it's trying to take into ownership that your actions, while not immediately effective, is
Yeah.
the only thing that's going to change all of this.
Mhm.
Because the governments aren't going to change because they're paid by the oil companies.
Right.
And the corporations aren't going to change because they're getting money regardless, whether it's from
Right.
governments because they're crossing lines, or whether
Mhm.
it's from you because you're
Right.
you're buying the coffee or you're buying the um, materialistic things that we've been told we need to
Right.
be valid.
Mhm.
I think understanding that even your little actions, if you can spread it to one other person,
Mhm.
if they spread it to one other person, you've exponentially changed something.
Mhm.
That's hard to remember when you see
Mhm.
the fires on Facebook and you're just
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
what do I do? Like, how can
Yeah.
I fix those immediate
Mhm.
problems?
Yeah. So speaking of everybody doing their
Hmm.
part, did you want to talk about the article you sent me?
Oh, yeah. So, I actually have an update as well from,
Mhm.
or something I've heard from somebody that I think is interesting.
Yes, I saw that on your Facebook.
Yes. So, yeah. So, the article I sent Nora is how Australia kind of fire reliefs a model by the name of Kaylin Ward, who has an Instagram and an OnlyFans, and I'm sure if you're above a certain age, you understand what an OnlyFans account is. But basically, she uh, exchanged photos, videos, and other content for money.
Mhm.
And I believe she donated, and I think it was $10 per photo,
Mhm.
particularly of nude photos.
Mhm.
And I believe she ended up donating more than $1 million
Mhm.
to the Australia Fund from selling nude photos. And then you came
Mhm.
back at me and said
Yeah.
that pole dancers and dancers
Mhm.
are also doing the same thing.
Mhm.
Following that, I
Mhm.
heard that, and I don't know for certain if it's Kaylin Ward or if
Mhm.
it's another person doing the same thing,
Mhm.
but I've heard recently that that person or a person has got a lot of backlash from their families
Mhm.
from selling nudes, doing the fans
Yeah.
only, and donating money.
Mhm.
But that perhaps there's more to it than just
Of course, as there
her
usually is.
um, being sexually explicit.
Right.
But I think what's interesting to focus on first is
Mhm.
this idea of like, it all stems back, right? It all comes back to like social
Mhm.
inequity.
Yeah. So there was Kaylin Ward who did
Hmm.
it. There was Emily Elliott,
Hmm.
and she claims to have donated $50,000.
Hmm.
And then there was Jenna Lee who reported raising 40,000.
Oh,
And Vancouver-based sex worker Katie Day, who says that she's raised 1,000 in less than 24 hours.
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And obviously there's been a lot of backlash
Right.
because sex work and adult entertainment is still considered
Mhm.
immoral,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. a taboo.
Hmm.
You know people watch it, but nobody discusses it.
Well, it's mostly, I feel, like when women do it for themselves that they get the biggest
That's
backlash,
right.
but when men do it for their pleasure and they kind of use women,
Yeah.
it's kind of seen as, whatever.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah. Porn industry, that's mostly male driven. Nobody seems to, well, that's not true. There is a problem with the industry, but,
Mm. But
most
most
people,
people assume that men are watching porn and
yeah.
are shocked when women are watching porn.
Yeah.
And there's the
Yeah.
difference in like if gender has a difference in like whether you're visually stimulated or uh, like auditorily
Right.
stimulated. That was not a word, but that's fine. But this idea, I agree that like
Yeah.
if
Well,
women are
like when
doing it for the
company,
male
like,
gaze, it's
right.
okay, or it's better
Hmm.
than if a woman is doing it for her own
Right.
either pleasure or profit.
Right. Yeah.
And
You know,
that's so
yes.
wrong.
There's glorifying of the pimp, but there is shame for the prostitute.
That's true. It's like, oh, you're a pimp. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever said that, but
No,
like,
no, but they glorify, pimping ain't easy.
true.
Or like, yeah, I'm a pimp.
But if
I'm a
someone said, oh, I'm a
PIMP.
prostitute, they'd be like, are you okay?
Eh.
Or
Yeah,
like, oh, you poor thing. Like, that's
right.
kind of the attitude where it's like,
Nobody would be applauding if you said I'm a madam. I'm like,
true,
mm-hmm.
true. Or if the woman was the pimp,
Right.
right? You'd be like, oh, like, what are you doing to your own kind? Kind
Right.
of
Like
thing.
Maxim and all these companies can use women half naked
Hmm.
to sell the product,
Hmm.
but the minute a woman wants to use her own body to sell her
Hmm.
product, then you're like, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep,
Or
somebody
who's the
failed with you.
Playboy man who died
Hugh
recently?
Hefner.
Hugh
Yeah.
Hefner. He was like considered a god,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the girls who were part of Playboy, it's like, oh, those poor
Yeah.
dears. It's like they
Yeah.
didn't have anywhere else to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just a beautiful face. What else were they supposed to do, kind of thing.
Right.
Especially when something like this happens, where obviously sex sells,
Mm-hmm.
and these women took it upon themselves to go, hey, I care about the environment. I care about this crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I know I can make like more than a
Yeah.
buck
Yeah.
and give it.
Yeah.
But then they're demonized either by their family or by everyone else.
Right.
As if it's somehow dirty money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they killed people. It's not like
Right.
they sold
And
people.
one of them actually had an amazing quote. Who was it? Oh, Ward. She said, "Fuck it, save the koalas." Because
Amazing.
like, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah. She said my family disowned me, and the guy like won't talk to me all because of that tweet. But then she said, "Fuck it, save the koalas." And at the end of the day, like the koalas really don't give a shit where the money's coming from. If their habitat is like destroyed, they really don't care what you did
No,
to give it back to them.
no.
The koalas aren't going to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't take that money because you showed your vagina for it."
Yeah.
Yeah, they really don't care.
The environment doesn't care.
No, like huge causes really don't care.
And what I find interesting, and it blows my mind all the time, that technically speaking,
Mhm.
we all were formed in our
Mhm.
grandmother's uterus.
Mhm.
Because in your grandmother's uterus, your mother
Mhm.
was being formed,
Mhm.
and it was there that the egg that made you
Mhm.
was formed.
Mhm.
Because that's how female genetics work, is that
Mhm.
we are born with all the eggs we'll ever have.
Mhm.
And and then a lot of people equate obviously women to Mother Earth, and
Yeah.
that's a problem in and of itself because of just sexism.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that there's a lot of women using what they have to
Right.
lead the charge,
Mhm.
and as always, they're being villainized for it.
Also, there is a specific, because we did mention briefly
Yeah.
that pole dancers and
Yes.
the aerial community is
Love
actually doing
aerial
things for it.
community.
The aerial community. And so one in particular, it's called Dance for Australia raffle. They donate $10 for or more when you made a donation to Wire, I think.
Right.
And they have actually raised
That's
$14,505,
amazing.
and their goal was 15,000. So they're actually really close to getting up there to their goal.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and there are internationally,
Hmm.
there is a Polars Unite raffle,
Hmm.
and their prize pack is huge.
Yeah.
Like it is massive, and all their proceeds go to Wire as well. And then there's Fly and Flow for fire relief,
Hmm.
step up raffles,
Hmm.
Storm Studios GoFundMe fundraiser
Of
for
course.
eScriptsland local.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch. So, despite what a lot of people think about polars and aerial community, we
Yeah.
actually have big hearts and we're doing our part. And
Well, it stems from the same thing, the idea that people in
yeah,
the
the stigma.
adult entertainment unit, and
Hmm.
pole doesn't even have to be adult entertainment,
Mm-mm.
but there's apparently something wrong with people who are in it,
Yeah.
as if there's something inherently wrong
Hmm.
with it.
So, speaking about Kaylin Ward and all that she did, this was
Yes.
actually a topic that was brought up on CTV's The Social. I don't know if you're familiar with
I
that.
know it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, so it's a daytime television show in Canada
Mm.
that's very similar to our kind of
Yeah.
format. It's just for ladies, very feminist, very progressive thinking, that kind of sit around and just kind of discuss
Yeah.
certain topics. And they actually covered this one in particular,
Okay.
and like, the moral
Hmm.
um, ideas around it. Is this right? Is it
Yeah.
wrong? What do we think? I mean, immediately when they first introduced the topic, the audience was like, ooh, boo, ooh,
Mm.
right? But then they're like, okay, well, it's for the Australian fires, and they've raised like almost $1 million. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, yay. But one,
Of the ladies.
yes, one of the ladies, I'm gonna throw her under the bus. I don't care.
Yeah. Throw her under the bus.
She wasn't too pleased about the idea. And one of the other co-hosts who actually brought it up, they're like, if you haven't really donated, do you really have the right to speak about it, right?
Mm.
And she's like, well, I've donated, so I'm gonna throw her under the bus because I have some right. I donated as well. So Melissa Grello at the social
Hmm.
kind of threw Kaylin Ward, or one of them in particular, I can't remember if that was
Yeah.
specifically Kaylin, under the bus because she was saying, well, one, I want to see these supposed receipts. I want to actually see whether or not this money
Oh.
was actually raised. I don't necessarily believe it. But two, she's like, I don't actually necessarily believe that this is purely for Australia. I think she has altruistic motives. I think she was doing, oh, sorry, not altruistic, alternative
Mm.
motives. And I think, she was really doing it just to get the attention. She had X amount of Instagram followers when she started, and now it's
Mm.
ballooned, obviously. And just like, so I think, that was her motive from the beginning. She just wanted the attention.
Devil's
And
advocate here. What's the problem with that?
yeah,
If at
okay.
the end of the day she used her platform,
Mhm.
knowing that she was going to get a lot of attention if she
Mhm.
donated however much she donated,
Mhm.
what does it matter?
Mhm.
Like, I don't really believe that there's like a truly good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that anybody doing altruistic
Mhm.
actions does it 100% out of the goodness of their heart. Because
Right.
human nature has ulterior motives. Whether
Right.
it's like, whether your motive entirely is, I just want attention for the environment, you're
Mhm.
still, this idea of I want attention for
Mhm.
the environment, you're still, your motives aren't entirely like
Right.
white and pure, right? And so
Mhm.
what if she ends up with, 3 million extra
Right.
subscribers to her
Mhm.
her Instagram?
Yeah.
Does that matter at the end of the day? She donated a whole bunch of money
Right.
that wouldn't have been donated and gone to help.
Mhm.
So, ding ding
Yeah.
ding, what's the problem?
Right. And I actually have the same view as you do. I don't necessarily believe that there's completely
Mm.
selfless good deeds. I do believe that no matter what you believe, even if you haven't
Hmm.
realized your motive or how it benefits
Hmm.
you, at the end of the day, anything you do that's for the betterment of
Hmm.
others is probably also the betterment for
Well, yeah,
yourself.
even if it's just to paint you in a good light,
Exactly. Even if it's just like, it makes me feel bad to see this poor man starving, I will give him $1. Then you walk away and you're like, oh, that made me feel better.
you still felt better.
Yeah, right. Like you still got something
You
from it.
still
It
got
wasn't completely
gratification of
selfless.
some
Exactly.
some form.
An easement of guilt or
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
right? So that was for you. Yes, you helped him, and that's awesome.
Hmm.
And it's not to say like no one should ever do anything because of that.
Yeah.
It's just to be like, you know what? I don't think there's truly an unselfish
Hmm.
act, but that doesn't mean that what you have done
Hmm.
is not good.
Yeah, even Mother Teresa, right, who
Mhm.
is viewed in
Mhm.
general as the most altruistic
Mhm.
person alive, I'm sure she gets gratification out of helping others.
Mhm.
And so, therefore, is there something wrong with her
Right.
doing what she does,
Right.
helping
And then
others?
yeah, and it goes back to like, what Kaylin Ward said about the koalas. Like, will the koalas care?
No.
Like, if you only donated because you wanted to relieve your guilt over, using all those plastic straws,
Hmm.
do you think koalas care?
No.
Like,
Koalas don't care if you're trying to earn good karma.
no.
They don't care. They care that all their eucalyptus is burned down.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very like it's very two-dimensional for people to be like, well, why did they do it? Like, why does it matter why they did it? Really?
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, maybe she's like, you know what? I really am losing out on my follower count right now. I need to like up the ante. You know what?
Yeah.
I'll donate. I'll sell my nudes for $10 and I'll give all of that to Australia. So what? She
Yeah.
got some followers. She'll probably make some money in the end of
Right.
it overall, but like,
Yeah. It was actually reminds me of something um, a radio talk host said. It was actually the one time I think it was Jerry Eargard from News Talk 1010. I think it was the only time I actually ever agreed with him. And he was saying the same thing because somebody called and they're like, oh yeah, big companies are only donating to make themselves look good, right? Like Ronald McDonald House, McDonald's,
yeah.
they're only doing that because it makes them look good. And his point was like, so what?
Do those families care?
Do those families care? Yeah, exactly. Like, no. I mean, at the end of the day, if they're helping and they're doing things,
Yeah.
and if you have a problem with that, well, then you raise like $50 billion for sick kids.
Yeah. Or
Because
you
like if
open
they
your
did
own
exactly,
house.
and because like if they didn't do it, then who would?
Yeah. Some other
So
company would do it for the same reasons.
yeah, I mean, the social has their annual mental health Let's Talk week
Yeah.
episodes, and that's probably because their parent company Bell has the same
Yeah.
thing. And why does Bell do that? Bell does it because it makes them look good.
Yeah.
We care about mental health. Yeah, it's breaking the stigma. Yes, it's doing a lot for mental health funding. But they also do it because when you're thinking of like, who do I want to sign up with for,
Yeah.
telecommunications, you're going to probably think about, oh yeah, Bell does the whole mental health thing. I want to be
Yeah.
part of that too, right?
Or
They
even just
benefit
like
from it.
because people are talking about Bell all the time in February, I think.
Yeah,
It's like, well, if your contract happens to come up in February, the first people you're going to think about is Bell.
exactly.
And yeah, okay, they're going to make money overall, but they put their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
They say, oh, if you share this, we'll donate 5 cents. You share it, they're going to donate 5 cents. Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's like, does it matter? Some other company's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, in an ideal world, in an ideal world, everybody would be altruistic. Everybody would be like, I want to save the environment because I love the planet. Because I believe in the animals.
Because I fucking live in the world.
But nobody exists who's like
No.
that.
No.
And certainly not. We're certainly
Yeah.
not going to have an entire society
Yeah.
who feels like that. Because even people who, as you said, believe that they're just doing it because it's good, they're doing it because it makes them feel good to be good. It makes them feel like they have something over somebody else to be like, well, I just do this.
Yeah, and even people who are like, well, I just did it because it was the right thing to do, they're also like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't.
Exactly.
So, like, you're doing it so that you don't feel guilty in the future.
Never mind the people who brag, who do it because
Right.
they can brag.
Yeah.
Those people aren't altruistic. Those people. I feel like that lady you were talking about, I feel like
Yeah.
she's that person who like just does things to brag about them. Like, cause why else would she care?
Right.
Why else is there a problem?
I mean, the show that she is on does, the Bells Let's Talk about mental health. But why do you think, well, she probably does it because, Bell's her parent company, but also it makes the show look good.
Oh yeah.
And she's part of that show. And, the show looks good. If they're on the air, she gets money.
They'll get more viewership.
Exactly.
The more viewership they get, the more money they get.
Exactly. So her job, her livelihood depends on it. So even to her, why do you do what you do?
Did anyone ask her that?
Nobody asked her that.
That would have been the tea, sis.
I yelled at the I yelled at the TV. I did a very big boo you, Melissa Grello.
Sorry.
So we're in the kids area right now, and there weren't kids when we started, but they are starting to come.
All
and
at 5:15 in the evening.
That's kind of late for kids, I would have thought.
Well, I guess parents have gotten off of work.
That's true.
What I love best is that on the way we're recording, we can see our voices and like how the mic picks up. So I know for a fact that my mic isn't picking you up, which is great because
Okay.
that's you're gonna send me your recording and then I'll line them up. But it is picking up that baby over there. And I think that's hilarious.
And this is how you know we actually are in the libraries.
Yep.
We're
We're not just faking you out.
we're not bullshitting you guys. We actually are in libraries when we do
We're
this.
visiting a
We are,
library every time we do
yep,
this.
yep.
So yeah, I
We
think
are supporting libraries because it's the right thing to do.
yeah, because they'll count
Because we're
as
so holy.
oh god. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's hard. I think that nobody's giving the general person enough credit for how difficult this entire situation is. I think that people also don't give enough credit to how much environmental issues are stem from and are intersectioned with social issues. Because I feel like right now I'm not in a financial position to throw even $100, even $5 at Australia.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not. Like with everything else going on, like my mental health is very, very, very entrenched in my financial stability. And it is not stable right now. And so I feel like, well, I'm not doing enough. Like I studied the environment. I'm not even giving $5, whatever. And it's like that's important to acknowledge that people who don't have stability in their life don't have the capacity to care as much as people tell them they should care. And that's important because, first of all, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to feel like that. It's okay to feel like you don't do enough. And it's okay to acknowledge that you're not in the position to do more.
Exactly.
But I also think that there's a difference between acknowledging it for your own mental health and just going like, I don't have the time. I don't have the money.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between being like a social advocate and an advocate for yourself and dismissing it as unimportant. And I see a lot of that going around the internet. This like balance between like, well, I don't have the money and time. I just don't have the money and time, and like, oh my god, how can I help? I don't have the money and I don't have the time. And those are two very different attitudes
Yeah.
that I feel like are constantly overturning the social media.
Yeah. It's a hard. Sorry. No, it's a hard place to be in.
Yeah.
It's a hard times. And I was talking to my friend about it because he messaged me, and they're like, "Yeah, Australia, it's horrible." And I told him the same thing, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just pissed off about this." And I told him, well, he's like, "Well, maybe now people will do things. People are aware. Maybe more things will happen." And I'm like, you know what? I actually don't think they will.
I don't
I
think they
feel
will.
like it will take half the world to be on fire and the other half to be drowning before anybody does anything. And even then, it still wouldn't be enough.
Even then, so in the environmental sector, at least in the schools, we call it NIMBYism. And it's NIMBY. And it stands for not in my backyard.
Oh, yep, yep.
NIMBYism.
Yep, yep.
And it's the idea that people really, really don't get it until it's like stepping on their feet, until it's dogging their every step, until it's literally the garbage is piling in their backyard and they call somebody to clean it up and they go, we can't. Right? That's why I generally don't think that it's going to change until like we see genuine change from environmental refugees. Because people don't care about people. So as soon as they start coming in, needing somewhere to live that's not flooding or on fire, people are generally going to be like, oh, okay, well, I don't want this because they're selfish. And then they'll be like, I'm going to throw my money at it until it goes away.
I don't know. I mean, we don't do that with like regular refugees.
That's true.
I mean, people are literally losing their homes to bombs and
from our own countries.
right, yeah, and we're still like, well, that's not my problem,
Yeah.
And people are still like, oh, our homeless are freezing to death, but the refugees get hotels, and
it's like that's very that's a whole nother podcast.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think that I honestly don't know when it's going to change, and that's what the scary thing is.
Yeah.
It honestly won't change until the companies change,
Mm-hmm.
but the companies have absolutely no motivation to, right? Because the way we've built our world is that, yes, I'm an absolute advocate for the environment. I'm an absolute advocate for doing what you can do. But I still go to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
I still pay my rent every day.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to pay my bills every day
Mm-hmm.
because I like have to function in society the way we've built it. I
Yeah.
can't just build a bus
Right.
and like go live in Northern Ontario somewhere.
Right.
Because even then, I'd still be tied to this idea of success.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we've done,
Mm-hmm.
and we've made it even harder for people to take action.
Mm-hmm. So, how long have we been at it?
We're at 45 minutes.
45. Okay, so before we totally depress everybody, I found some very uplifting environmental
We
related
love
stories.
this.
Yes. So, just so that we can see that there is a glimmer of hope,
Of course.
I found a couple of stories that I thought might interest you.
Yes.
So, the first one is of Goody the turtle. Have you heard of Goody?
I haven't heard of Goody. I've heard of a different turtle.
Okay, so Goody the turtle is an endangered olive ridley sea turtle that's living in Thailand. So sadly, Goody lost her left flipper
Oh
years
no.
ago when she was entangled in a fishing net. And, just to depress everybody once again, sea turtles are often injured or killed by human activities, which is most commonly by ingesting plastic and, getting caught in fishing nets or lines, which then cuts off their blood circulation,
Yeah.
so to their limbs and everything like that. So back to the good news. Goody is actually the first recipient of a prosthetic flipper.
Oh, that's
Yeah, she
amazing.
received it last week. In the prosthesis, unfortunately, she won't be able to be released back into the wild. She'll
Right.
never get that strength.
Yeah.
But it just makes her a lot more comfortable
Yeah.
living in captivity and
Oh,
improves her quality of life.
it's amazing.
Yeah, over the past year, the Thai Environment Authorities and research at, oh, I'm going to butcher this, Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok have been working to develop prostheses for injured sea turtles, and they are now have the potential of helping 10 others.
Oh, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to know about the other
And,
turtle that I was thinking about?
yeah. Is it Diego?
It's Diego. Is that your story? Okay, so Diego, in case nobody's listened to the news recently, is a giant chelonoidis hudensis
Oh, thank God
tortoise.
you said that.
I believe that's what it is. A chelonoidis hudensis tortoise from Hispaniola in the Galapagos. So he's a giant turtle, basically. He's, I believe, 500 pounds, 300 pounds, something big turtle.
Yeah, and he's thought to be about 100 years old.
He's thought to actually be a little older than that.
Oh, okay.
But basically, in the 1960s, he was one of only like 30,
30?
like something like that. Basically, one of only like 30 turtles left in his species.
Oh, I thought it was 15.
Oh,
The
you're
article I
right,
said,
50.
yeah.
One of
15
only
surviving
15 members of his species on the Galapagos. So scientists took him because they're like, oh god. And since the 1960s, he has been working, and he has populated his species to 2,000 members, I believe.
Yeah.
And obviously by working, we mean he's been repopulating. And I just think that's amazing.
Yeah. 40% of all living Hispaniola Island giant tortoises are related to Diego.
Amazing. I did wonder, though, basically, and he's retiring. That's what the happy story is he's done so well that he can now retire from being a breeding turtle. I don't know how that works, really.
A playboy.
A playboy. A Hugh Hefner, if you will, of turtles. I wonder genetically what that's going to do to the turtles, is my only worry.
So in the article that I read, they said that they're returning him back to the Galapagos.
That's good.
Blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, there are lots of turtles there who are not genetically related to him, so there's not going to be issue with that.
Okay.
So when he was in the conservatory program, the breeding program, he actually joined 2 other males and 12 females in the breeding program.
Okay.
And he spent a good part of his life in captivity, 30 years breeding. one of the breeders attributed his success to the big personality that
Oh,
he
big
had, his
personality.
quite aggressive, active, and vocal his mating habits.
Sounds like he got a lot of practice.
But for any guy who's out there thinking that that's the way you need to go about getting mates, being loud and aggressive, there was actually a quieter male, known only as E5, who wasn't really showy about his mating habits, and he actually surpassed Diego, and he has spawned 60% of the total tortoise
That's
population.
hilarious.
Yeah. So being showy and loud, men, that's not the way to get the
It's not the
ladies.
way to get the ladies.
The quieter guys, the gentlemen.
The gentleman.
And if you've done the math, so 40% is attributed to Diego,
Yep.
and 60% is attributed to E5, but there were 3 tortoises in the
Oh,
program.
that means one male didn't have any
He
success.
completely crapped out.
Oh, yikes.
In the 30 years that they
I wonder
were
if he
there.
played for the other team, and Diego
Maybe.
and E5
Maybe he was an
just
asexual.
maybe he just wasn't interested. Maybe he helped raise the babies.
Yeah.
We don't know that
No.
because, as they say, homosexuality is found in 90% of species. Homophobia is found in 1. So
No, I'm just really interested because, like, in 30 years, this program was going on, and they were obviously keeping track of like who's related to
yeah,
whom. Why didn't any one of the researchers been like, "Hey, this little turtle guy isn't doing anything. Maybe we should check on him.
yeah, because
Make sure all his parts are working."
surely this obviously was not just a whimsical study. This was
No.
obviously the intent was to repopulate the island.
And diversity is like the best for
It's the
any
best. Like,
population.
you definitely want as much genetic diversity as possible in a population. So I wonder how long it took them to figure out that, like, because I'm assuming they didn't just throw all these turtles in a room
No.
and like just
Turtle RJ.
and just let them do what they were gonna do, right? Because I don't know what it's like for turtle genetically, but like something like a cat can technically have a litter of kittens with 3 different fathers because they can hold on to the sperm for a year, I think, before they like fertilize their eggs, so they can have a litter of kittens with 3 different fathers. So like, I don't know how it is for turtles, but I'm assuming they didn't just have a turtle orgy and hope for the best. Like, I'm sure they like artificially inseminated some of these turtles, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Because obviously this guy wasn't putting up. Or maybe there's something wrong with him genetically. It was good to have him in the cluster, like for, I don't know, for social, but maybe he wasn't genetically viable.
Yeah. Who knows? Oh, and the last story I wanted to tell you guys was about panda fishing.
Panda fishing?
Panda fishing. So this is an activity experts have designed to encourage pandas to strengthen their hind legs in preparation for mating. So what they do is they kind of, you have like a little rod, like a little stick and a little apple attached to it, and they kind of hang it out into the enclosure. And they encourage pandas to, well, because pandas want their food.
Yeah.
So they kind of just dangle it in front of them, and they try to get pandas to stand up. So if they want the apple, they have to stand.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
So if you want to see panda fishing in action, I would suggest looking up iPanda channel on Instagram, and there's a video of them
Panda fishing. That's fun, especially because pandas, like, the more I learn about the pandas, the more I'm like, these guys should have gone extinct a very long time ago, and not because humans did anything, but because pandas are just the worst.
Pandas are like, how do you exist?
So pandas fake pregnancy. They've learned to fake pregnancy so they get all the nice treats.
Yeah, but they only ovulate like 1 day a year.
Yeah, 1 day.
1 day.
And it's not even like, so with humans, obviously, you ovulate once a month, typically.
Yeah.
But you're usually fertile for the 3 days before and the 3 days after. Pandas, I'm pretty sure, are only fertile for that one
For that 1
day.
day. 1 day.
And they don't show a
160.
lot of signs of ovulation.
No. And they are painfully shy.
So shy.
So shy.
And have you seen the video of pandas forgetting they have a baby? So there are videos where pandas are munching away on their like bamboo, which is not their food. They should be eating
No.
meat. It
Yeah,
actually
they are
bungs them up and
carnivores.
makes them very sick to eat bamboo, but they just love it. Or they're too
Yes.
lazy to catch their food.
Yeah.
And like they're munching away, and then you see a baby in the background, and the baby moves something, and the panda mother or father, whatever, eating the bamboo jumps, and it's like, and you can see it turn around and go, oh, there's a baby there. That's my baby.
I've seen pandas, like, because the iPandal channel
Hmm.
is in the, I guess, a breeding or
Yeah.
whatever conservation program.
Hmm.
So I've seen handlers like offer a mother milk
Hmm.
for in trade of their
Yeah.
baby.
Yep. And they'll just
And
do
then,
it. They'll
yeah,
just
and
hand
they're
the
just like,
baby
here,
over.
yeah, I want milk. Give me that.
It's like, no, I want that. I don't want my baby. I don't care.
You take the baby.
It's like, honestly, this the
Me as a mom.
I feel like for you it'd be more like wine or something though. What's your
Yeah.
drink of choice?
I don't think I have a drink.
Okay, that's
It
fine.
could just be like anything.
Okay, that's
I'm not even picky about what I treat my baby
candy. A bag of candy.
a bag of
Baby's
candy.
yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, genuinely speaking, pandas shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how
And they fall off everything. They are the most clumsiest
they
animal I've
fall off
ever seen.
everything. They don't want to move. So like, if
No,
there's a predator, they will just lie there and let the predator
they
take
will.
them out.
Yeah. Oh, I heard if a panda is scared and they don't want to fight, do you know what they do? They cover their eyes. That is their
That is
non-aggressive stance. That's my I don't want to fight. No.
I I don't know why we put all our conservation efforts into them. That's going to be the only animal to survive these great extinctions is the panda because we freaking pour our money into them.
Yeah.
This is the problem with megafauna. They just, or we call it charismatic megafauna, because
Hmm.
people love them, so they want to
They
pour
just
money
look
into
like
them. But they're the
yeah.
stupidest animals
They
alive.
are. You gotta love how stupid they are.
Oops, I just coughed. I'm really sorry. I tried to mute my mic, but it registered anyway. RIP headphone users. Yeah, I think that all in all, at the end of the day, and we're coming up to an hour now, so I
Mhm.
figure this is a good place to kind of sign our way out,
Mhm.
is that nothing is hopeless.
Mm-mm.
It's okay to have an existential crisis about what to do for the environment.
Mhm.
You're definitely not alone. Nobody's
Mm-mm.
alone in it. And that I think addressing and assessing what it is you can do
Mhm.
is far more productive than trying to assess and overthink what you can't do. Right? So you might not be able to afford to throw $10 for a nude. Like you might not be able to
Mhm.
afford that. That's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
You might not be able to like your daily thing that keeps you going might be your Starbucks. And like
Mhm.
Starbucks is not the best company, but
No.
it might be that like one coffee a day is what keeps you going. And that's okay.
Mhm.
But if you can advocate, if you can
Mhm.
volunteer your time, if you can make one change that you carry cutlery with you or you
Yeah.
carry a straw with you right
Or a
now,
travel mug to Starbucks.
or your travel mug to Starbucks, those
Mhm.
are the little things that you can do that will make a difference.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing is to try to support others in doing
Mhm.
what they can because we all are guilty of feeling alone in these crises. Um, and money doesn't solve everything.
Right.
Actions are often some of the most
Mhm.
powerful things you can do.
Mhm. And just like any other goal, baby steps.
Hmm.
Baby steps are going to get you to the bigger goal.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be like, I have to go and buy an electric car right away.
Yeah. Wait
Y-
till
You
they come
know,
into the secondhand market.
yeah. I mean, do your little part.
Hmm.
And if everybody does their little
Hmm.
part, that's going to add up.
Especially if you support each other in
Yeah.
making like together. Like maybe I have extra metal straws that I'm not using, and my
Mhm.
friend has extra travel mugs, and I
Mhm.
can't afford a travel mug, but they can't afford a metal straw. Let's swap.
Mhm.
Getting rid of all of your stuff and becoming a minimalist overnight is not going to be sustainable.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to last. You're going to then go buy all that stuff again, and that's a waste.
Yeah.
Donate your clothes. Try to buy used things every now and again.
Mhm.
Go on Facebook Marketplace or
Yeah.
Buns or whatever and trade things
Yeah.
before you buy
Carpool.
them.
Carpool with a coworker
Carpool with a
or a
coworker.
podcast buddy.
Or yeah.
Emma's my ride
Yeah,
everywhere.
that's fine. I'm okay with it. Eventually, I'm hoping to live in Mississauga so we're closer, but we'll see what happens.
Yay.
Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, hope is far stronger than crisis,
Mhm.
as humankind has shown over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And I think maybe to end out this episode, What's a good question to end out today? I want something hopeful.
Something hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent
That's
question.
an excellent question from our studio audience. Maybe what is your little part that you are doing? Not what you want to do. What are you doing? Your little part.
Yeah.
So for me, Emma.
And me, Nora.
We'll see you next time.